I'm Dr. J, and I have Karla Ilicic with me from Croatia today, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I have Sarah, how do you say that?
Murphy?
Murphy.
You got it.
So we have actually two other guests taking part in this choice score, and we're going to talk about action from positive thinking. And I'll hand it over to Karla.
Yeah. So last time we kind of discussed and touched on the topic of how positive thinking can basically affect our entire day and with it our lives. But now we're trying to get into the more how would I explain that? More action point situation where yeah, okay, you can be positively thinking about something, but how do you actually transfer that into action and make it a part of your day that doesn't um, kind of just stay in the thought process. So basically, for me, as a coach, I always try to explain to people that when it comes to positive thinking, whether you do it through my mindful action or meditation, or just simply, telling yourself, I'm going to think positive about this, I'm going to find something positive. The first thing to do is to actually acknowledge that whatever it is positive. So if you're finding yourself in a stressful situation, you have to find that positive aspect from where you're going to be looking. That's number one. Because if you just say, oh, I need to find something positive, and you never do, you're not taking that step. You're not actually doing the action. So you need to, go deep down and find that positive part of it that you can kind of attach to. And then you get to develop that by going deeper into it and exploring more about it and trying to figure out how to create that positive aspect of it and how to transfer it to your own mindset. So sometimes it's very hard. It's very hard to find, always to find something positive, right? But then we have another set of tools that can help us, which is trying to find something that makes us happy and something that's positive in our lives that we can always refer to. So even if you're in a situation where you can't find anything positive, you can refer to something else that brings you joy in your life. And that will help you at least, lessen the impact of something negative, or potentially even find a positive aspect that you haven't been able to just by, trying to get into it. And, you can have examples from being on a plane and having terrible turbulence and like, what can you do? Nothing, right? But if you just stress about it, you're still not contributing to anything good, right? You're only just making yourself feel worse, and you're sitting there and the plane is going all crazy, and it's not like you can be the pilot. So instead of going crazy, and it's very hard to find something positive in that situation, try going back into something that makes you happy. So referring to something positive, which will in response trigger your stress levels to go down.
Give me an example.
And that's basically what we're trying to do here.
For instance, I have a son, and I was just, before we joined the podcast, I was telling her, and her mom and her both are, there's this condition called schizoaffective. I don't know if you've heard of it. And so
yeah, I have.
he would stay in his head sometimes and not do something. So once I was meeting with him and his therapist, and he said, listen, and exactly what you said, that instead of just staying in your head, think of finding something that brings you joy and do something.
Yeah.
And that's what you were saying. And I say, so true, because we can just sit there and think, but not do anything.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people do that in situations where you can definitely do something.
Right.
I mean, my example of a plane was one of those situations where you really can't do anything. You're sitting there, you can't do anything. But in a lot of situations, you can. You definitely can. You can stop what you're doing and do something that really brings you joy, or you can call someone that brings you joy, whatever it is.
Even in flight, that in the flight, magazine, they always have some tips.
Mm-hmm.
How you can stretch your legs, you can breathe, you can do yoga, you can do this, meditation. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they tell you could do while
Yeah.
you're confined to your seat. You can't even move, but you can
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of stuff while you're sitting in confinement.
Mm-hmm.
And so, going back to your point, you can just sit there and agonize, or you can start doing something. Like when you
Exactly.
were talking about maths companies employees, that before they start their day, they can do something, and during the day,
Exactly.
they can do something. End of the day, they can do something.
Yeah, and once you get in that habit of doing that,
Right,
you understand the power that it has over you.
right,
And that's why a lot of people start their day with affirmations, and some other people don't understand it. The point of that affirmation isn't to make yourself believe that the world is perfect. The
right.
point of those affirmations is to start the day on a positive note. And for some people, that's what does it. You read a couple of really great positive quotes, or you read a passage from a book or something like that, and it just sets the tone for your day. Some people need to exercise in the morning, some people need to do their meditation. Whatever it is, it sets the tone for the day. So once you get into the habit of doing it and you realize how powerful it is, you can't stop doing it. you know it's something that definitely helps keep you grounded, and that's a really good routine to have. So yeah, I think that it's important to actually acknowledge how it can impact your day and how it can impact the quality of your life, basically. And that's why, as a coach, I always talk to my clients, and before I even touch on the food, we kind of they come to me because I'm a nutritionist, and they come to me for the food. But before I even touch that, I want to get to know them. I want to understand their stress levels. I want to understand their lives and how they go through their day. And in a lot of situations where I have issues with people who have Hashimoto's or any other hormonal imbalances, a lot of it has to do with so many things that are not connected to food at all, just because they're creating disbalance in their lives. And once they find a good routine that is like a pre-bed routine or a morning routine or a midday routine or in their car routine when they're commuting to work or whatever, something changes. And that's when you can start introducing all the other obvious things, especially when it comes to food or working out or sleeping better through the night or stuff like that, because everything just rolls after that. So,
You used a word called Hashimoto, you said?
Hashimoto, yeah, that's
What is
a that's a problem that happens when your thyroid is not working properly.
Oh, okay, okay.
So yeah, a lot of women deal with that,
Yeah, my
especially.
wife had that.
Yeah, and a lot of women deal with that because our hormones are always changing, and a lot of it can affect it. But basically, the biggest culprit in the last 20-30 years is just stress, because
Oh,
your adrenal glands get overly stimulated, and they just work too much to try to keep up, and then they mess everything else up. So a lot of women are put on hormone therapy, and it's just not going to cut it.
it's so interesting you talk
It's the
about
issue from
stress.
inside out.
Stress is so important. In fact,
Well, stress is the worst thing, and we're all under it. There isn't one person in the world who isn't stressed. And it's not about, like, what I always say to my clients, because they always come to me and they're like, well, life is stressful, I can't change life. True. And I'm not saying you can cut out stress, because it's impossible. Plus, stress is sometimes inevitable and sometimes necessary, because when you're in a situation where you have to act fast, you need stress, you need that cortisol to spike up.
right,
So, all I want from people is to learn how to manage their stress. That's all. You're always going to be in a situation where something is going to go wrong and you're going to stress about it. That's fine. But just learn how to manage it,
I think
instead
that's
of
the
staying
key.
stressed for like seven
Right.
months after that. So, so yeah, that's the hardest part, because you got to work on it every freaking day. It isn't something that's going to change. So,
Everything in life can be managed. you know.
Yes, you just have to learn how to do it and then
Exactly.
continue practicing because every situation is different. And, you know, it's just, it's impossible to accept, expect from someone to not stress about something. But stressing about it for 30 minutes or stressing about it for 2 minutes are two different things, you
Yeah.
know?
In fact, you mentioned something about optimism and affirmation.
Yeah.
And then some of the other topics on the list which we can look into is creativity, gratitude, well-being, humor, happiness.
Yes, because it all comes together. Some people need to they write in like gratitude journals, or they doodle, or they paint, or they do something that just keeps their brain working in a different setting, and it helps them relax. And that's just, for me, that's like step number one, because you're still not dealing with that thing. That's kind of like a distraction to me. People say, journaling or coloring books, they're fine. I love that. But they just bring your stress down so that you're able to get into that positive mindset. That's not going to help. Coloring books, I mean, great, but they're not there as your positive outlet. They're there to help you get to that state where you can even start thinking about a positive outlet. Because once you're in a super high negative stress environment, it's very hard to like snap out of it. It's
Okay.
very hard. So you need something to calm you down before you even get to the, oh, okay, maybe that's not that bad thing. So you have
Yeah.
to get to that part, and it's very hard to do it once you're super stressed. So
After years of being a professor, I went to Harvard Business School because I had a lot of businesses. I had to learn about business. So my favorite professor there, he talks about a concept called go to the balcony.
mhm.
And so when he said that, I just laughed. I said, "What do you mean go to the balcony?" I mean, he said, "We all need to learn how we can go to the balcony." And what he meant was what you're saying, that take a break,
Mhm.
distract yourself, break
Mhm.
away from that high stress situation you're in. And if you just sit there and agonize, it's not going to change. But if you
Oh,
just walk outside and take a walk for 2 minutes, get some fresh air, just go to the balcony. I mean, that's the balcony. You take a break, Don't sit
exactly.
there and just uh, be stressed.
Yeah, because it's hard. It's hard to change something if you're not changing the setting you're in, you
Right,
know?
right,
So yeah, that's kind of what I thought when I meant, action,
right,
because in order to create that positive mindset, you need to do something. You can't just be doing the same thing and complaining about it and being negative. You have
right.
to make a step. Whatever it is, you have to make a step. So whether it's, going to the balcony or grabbing a piece of paper and just writing down your whatever you're thinking, or, going into a bathtub and turning off the lights and just trying to like zen
Do
yourself
something.
out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is something. That's what I always say to people. Whenever you're complaining that something in your life isn't working, you have to do something, because just complaining about it is not going to
Not
help
gonna.
you in any way. So yeah.
Well, Carla, thank you so much. That was a great podcast.